Yo,
Yo.
Happy Friday!
happy Friday, everyone.
Whew. What a week, man.
Survived this one too.
I'm tired, man. I'm
What a,
seriously
what a
tired.
week, but what a few weeks as well, because we missed the call because we were in sunny Cyprus then.
I know.
Why were you guys in sunny Cyprus? I live here, but why you lot came here?
We came to see you, bro. This is
Yeah,
what
that
it
was the problem. I'm still recovering from that. It was pretty traumatic.
Yeah, man. Good times though. Like Martin held a stage for a day the size of a football pitch, which was
Yeah,
insane.
my biggest stage of my life. That was pretty insane. Yeah, but fun as well.
Meeting people, getting celebrity paps.
Yeah,
Me taking stage selfies.
Wes had a fully sold out stage as well. It was packed. There were people in the corridor outside, people hugging you and taking pictures.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
And
We had
what was
full-
Ash?
What's
What was Ash doing?
Ash was trying to figure out how to go back home.
Yeah.
Ash was trying to get there.
I was booking my flight. Yeah, I was booking my flight to join you.
No,
And then when I came,
don't drop that biggie though.
I had a
Don't
great
drop the biggie.
welcome, didn't I?
Wait, don't drop the biggie. Like, tell everyone that you're working with Google, man. Like, you're missing out on that.
Well, that. So I should have
Exactly.
been there, but I was doing the Google talk. So that was great. But I'm still gutted that I didn't see you guys on stage. But I met up with you guys later, and I had a brilliant welcome, all-inclusive surprise night in Paphos, which was great. So thanks
in the chat right early, like Ash actually made it to another island.
Yeah, Lena saying, yeah. He made it to an island, but not this one. But then we had a full sold out personal branding workshop as well, which was absolutely incredible. We got crazy feedback from that as well, and that was our first that we did for personal brand and taking frameworks that we're using for Fortune 500 and making it accessible to personal brand. And some of the feedback were crazy. You know, someone stopped me after and they say, honestly, changed my life.
I know, it's mad,
magical.
Yeah, I think that's the first time we've blurred and merged business and personal brand together, and I think that was a nice little twist, and it worked so well.
Yeah, what's happening next on that?
I've always found that.
I've
always found that could be dangerous, right? Mixing like the personal brand and business stuff, because it's almost like you don't want to engineer your own personality and who you are, right? So you've got to do it the right way. You've got to do it the authentic way.
Yeah. And the good thing is that the feedback was so good and it was sold out that we couldn't fit everyone in the room. So we're taking the same format online, so not only offline. So to make it even more accessible to more people, spreading it through probably 3-4 days, and it's going to be a full-on masterclass with actionable frameworks and strategies and content techniques and everything that you need to build your personal profile and brand online. And it's coming live. I think we're in the next couple of weeks, right? The first session, and then it's going to be a recurring event. So check it out on our profile and DM us if you're interested.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough self promo.
Oh, sorry, Wes.
I said enough self promo. Let's get into this. Come on, I'm excited.
Let's just say quickly, shout out to everyone that's there at the moment. There's Lena, who's also getting in on the banter with us as well.
Look at Joe, man. You see what Joe said there?
Yeah, like what we know, we know. What we don't know, we're gonna figure it out.
Hey, Joe's an inside knowledge of ours. That's a little inside secret right there.
So anyone who's out there right now, drop your name in the chat, where you're from, and then also if you're seeing this on recorded later on, which will be available on the feed, let us know where you're from and your name.
We have a flag tally going, don't we? And we need to knock some out. Like, I want New Zealand in there. That'd be a wicked one. Like, imagine if we got that.
Yeah,
in the middle of the night, 12 hours. Are we going to go? Excited.
We're going to go. This is going to be a good one. This is a very special guest for all three of us, and special for a number of reasons. But why don't you, Wes? Why don't you introduce our guest?
You're giving me the honors. Well, this is. Let's just say this: for the people that know us, we wouldn't be Wham without this guy. Apple wouldn't be where Apple is without this guy. Adobe, Simon Tech, Hewlett-Packard, Google have all kind of played with this guy in the brand sphere. I termed this guy the Yoda of brand, and I hope that sticks. And that happened in Austria. He's the Don Perignon of brand, I believe. He's the Don Perignon of branders. I want to welcome massively to our Watercolour Live, Mr. Damn Golden Marty Neumeier. Here he is. Let's go.
Hey, Marty.
You
Welcome
good,
to the
Mart?
show.
Hey, hi Wes, hi Ash.
Hey, mate.
Hi
Good
Martin.
to see you.
You
Good to
guys
see
are
you.
great. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries. No worries. Come on, Ash. Let's get in.
So Marty,
let's go.
you're in Mexico City, aren't you, at the moment?
Near Mexico City,
Yeah.
in the center of Mexico, in the Central Highlands. So we're at 6,000 feet, and the weather's beautiful. It's like the best of Mexico. It's a terrific place called San Miguel de Allende.
Sounds the name.
Try to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I like.
I'm already thirsty for some tequila by the name, honestly. Like,
Yes.
just by hearing the name, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if
obviously you didn't start off. Let's for those that aren't too familiar with your background, you started off as a designer, obviously not in Mexico, in America, West Coast. Do you want to give us a little bit?
Yeah, no, I started I went to design school in Los Angeles at a place called Art Center. Started my business in a little town north of there called Santa Barbara, which is now pretty famous. But at the time it wasn't. It was difficult to make a living there, so I moved to Silicon Valley, where it was easy to make a living. You couldn't not make a living. So I needed that, and that's where I got involved with Apple and many other companies up there. They're all in the same place, like within 10 square miles, all these huge tech corporations. It was paradise for me, and stayed there for 25 years. And then went back to Santa Barbara, started Level C, and just for fun, we decided to move to Mexico, and it's been terrific.
And just so you don't know, guys, he whether it was official or not, he invited us all to come and stay with him in Mexico, in Austria. I don't know if he remembers that.
We're all invited. Yeah, no. I started as a designer, but I realized that if you want your work to be good, if you want your portfolio to be great and attract really good clients, you have to work with really good copywriters. And I couldn't find any in my little town. And I was forced to learn how to write to protect my design. So that's what I did. And I've been writing ever since, more and more, longer and longer things. Now I'm writing books. So it can be done, folks, if you don't think you're a great writer. If you work hard enough, like your whole life, in my case, you can learn how to do it. And if you're a writer, you can probably learn how to design, because my partner, Andy, is doing a lot of the design for Level C, and it blows me away sometimes. It's just, and typically I think writers are kind of blind, to graphics, but not in his case, anyway.
Well, there's a running joke with us three in that I've owned an agency, a small studio, and I've had designers and writers and video guys, but I'm not a designer. The other two are. They started as designers. I'm a writer. I love stories, as you know, Marty. But that gives me hope. Then, if Andy can design, then surely I can.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of similarities between art forms, right? They use the same principles, the same aesthetics. The difference is the material you're working with. You have to love the material. And so I had a lot of respect for writing, even though I didn't think of myself as a writer. But, I knew good writing when I saw it. And so that's a start. If it's difficult for people where English isn't their first language. That's going to be really difficult, but important to crack that, because if you're in the design and branding businesses, you've got to communicate perfectly, really, to be taken seriously. So if you can't do those other skills, you collaborate, right? You just find people that you can work with, and you form a team. But all of that has to work, and it all has to be good. if you really want to make a difference.
And look what's in front of you, Marty. I mean, that's literally what I said in your intro. Like we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, together, if A, you wouldn't have put us all together, but B, we wouldn't have understood how to collaborate in that sense. And that's obviously why the topic is today,
Yeah, I mean, I think most of my career, well, the first 20 years anyway, collaboration wasn't really on my radar. I just thought of myself as I just do the work, myself. And I have a team of people that assist me, but I'm the guy who's writing and designing and everything else. And it wasn't until I started owned a bigger studio with more people. And one day my friend David Stewart, I don't know if you know David Stewart, he was one of the founding partners of The Partners in London.
Right.
And he was telling me how important collaboration is going to be. And it was just like a lightning bolt hit me. And I thought, yeah, that's right. And we don't know how to do it. We don't even think about, what are the rules of collaboration? How do you work with a team of people? And I just kept thinking about that. And at the time, I was publishing a magazine, and I was the chief editor. And so I wrote a cover piece about collaboration. And that's where I really started to learn, what does it take? Who's doing it well? What does it look like? All those kinds of things. And now I think it's the answer to everything. I mean, a brilliant design philosopher named Jane Jacobs said that economic development is not just expansion, growth, but differentiation emerging from generality. And that's a lot of big words, but she's just saying the bigger an entity gets, whether it's an organism or a business or whatever, the more it has to differentiate to succeed. So that really started me thinking, what does that look like in the world of advertising and design, in branding and marketing, all those things? Where does differentiation fit? And that's when I realized that, okay, super important to differentiate if you want to succeed. But differentiation, if you're scaling up into anything worthwhile, depends on co-development. No entity, natural or economic, develops in isolation. We all need other people. Businesses need a lot of people. And if they can't work together, basically it's the Tower of Babel.
Insane. Yeah, great.
So I remember in 2020 in Santa Monica when we had the first masterclass, and I came across, I heard you talk about the Hollywood model with regards to brand collaboration, and I remember you said, either you said or you wrote, it takes a village to build a brand, and you called that village, I guess, the Hollywood model. I don't know whether you coined it or you came across it, but that's where I heard it from you. Can you explain what that Hollywood model is for those who aren't so familiar with the concept?
I don't know how many people think about the Hollywood model, but I did. And the term existed. It just wasn't very well known. And I discovered it someplace and started thinking about it. And then I researched the history of Hollywood and found out that it's a perfect model for what's happening in branding, or what should happen. But what started me thinking about the Hollywood model was Peter Drucker back in the, I think, 70s. Peter Drucker was, in my mind, the very first brand strategist. And I don't think he would have ever thought of himself that way. He was a business consultant. But everything he cared about was what we care about in brand strategy. So to him, business was a combination of innovation and marketing, and everything else was just support for those two things. Innovative products, innovative communications, all that. And then marketing, getting it out to people and connecting with people. And he said something that really made me start thinking about this in a more detailed way. He said the most important shift in business today is from ownership to partnership and from individual tasks to collaboration. So there it was. He said it in the 70s, and here I was in the 90s, and I'm just finding out about what's important in business. But even today, this is not well understood. Right now, so the Hollywood model came out of my exploration in the brand gap about 3 popular models of how to build a brand, the 3 sort of structural elements or structural relationships. The first one is the one-stop shop. That's where a company goes to a big, say, advertising agency that's got a lot more than advertising. It's got strategy, it's got all kinds of things. And they just turn over their brand to this company, right? So that's what Apple did when Steve Jobs left Apple. He was like pulling the whole thing together. Without him, they just said, oh, we don't know how to do this. So they went to Ogilvy and just gave the whole thing to Ogilvy. You guys just do our brand. And so for the whole time Steve Jobs gone, one company had the whole thing. So that's the one-stop shop. A more sophisticated view of that is the second brand model, which is the brand agency. That's an agency that does strategy and has lots of connections with all the other players that are needed to build a brand. So, designers and advertising agencies and business consultants, they can control all that. They can sort of get in and manage that whole process. And that sort of became more popular because with the brand agency, you have a choice of who you're going to use. You're not stuck with whoever's working for the company at that moment. So with Ogilvy and Apple, whoever they had working on the account is who they got. Apple didn't have a big choice, right? They didn't want a choice. They just wanted it to happen. So the brand agency gives everybody a little more control. But then the more sophisticated version that emerged was the integrated marketing team. That's where the brand is managed internally inside the company, but you hire all the other firms and individuals you need and put the whole thing together and manage it, orchestrate it from inside. And the beauty of that is that all the knowledge about branding that you're learning accrues to the company. In other words, it's not like when Ogilvy leaves, all the knowledge about the brand goes, right? And they hire somebody else who wants to do it a different way. And the customer's going, what happened? Where's my company? So those are the 3. Now, the third one, the integrated marketing team, is the Hollywood model. And it's probably an easier way to think about it. So when you think about Hollywood, you've seen the credits roll after a movie. They go on for like 2 hours, right? You hear 16 songs while you're looking at all the people that made the movie. And, there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of people involved in the movie. Okay, so they all come together to make this project. And then when it's over, the movie's done, they disperse. And they go on to other projects. And some of them will work together on the next project. Other ones, Okay, hold on a second. I have a dog issue here.
Don't worry.
It's a round of applause from the dog there.
Feelers. So one stop model, agency brand, and then the last one was the Hollywood model.
The integrated marketing, the Hollywood model,
Yeah, the Hollywood model. So the beauty of the integrated marketing team, the IMT, if you want to be technical, is that you have the best of breed specialists all working together. Now that assumes they can work together, right? Some creative people, and I would say probably still most of them, don't know how to work together. They're not good at it. They want all the work for themselves. They want all the power for themselves. And this is really a hurdle to overcome in collaboration. So you can't be that way. You have to be a team player. And that's something we're not taught in school. If you take marketing classes at Northwestern or Harvard or someplace, you're not going to get that training at all. You're going to get something that looks like one person's managing everything, and you want to be that person. So that is not going to work in this integrated marketing team. And so I built a whole company on this, doing this integrated marketing team stuff, helping companies to orchestrate it, working with them on the inside. And it's still a great business category for anybody who thinks they can do it, who has the experience, the connections and so forth, to put a whole bunch of team players together and manage them to some preordained outcome. So anyway, the Hollywood model wasn't always the Hollywood model. The Hollywood started out as vertically integrated businesses, right? So if you're a studio, you had everything. You had the actors, the sound stages, the directors, the scripts. You owned the whole thing. You owned the theaters where the movies went into. You had to put them in your theaters. That was great until World War II came along and the movie business tanked, and they couldn't afford to keep those verticals going. They couldn't afford the costs of doing everything themselves. So that they changed into network businesses, right? That's the Hollywood model that I'm talking about. So a network organization is a leaner organization, and they own fewer assets. They can leverage resources of partner companies. They use less capital. They return higher revenues, and they spread the risk across the whole network. And so that's what Hollywood is. It's just a bunch of loose companies that pull together to do a project, and they disperse and they come together again some other projects. And it's always moving, and that's why you have Hollywood as a geographic location, because everyone's there, right? And they can move from one job to another without picking up and moving their house to another state or something, right? They can just live there during their whole career. That's what it just struck me that's what Silicon Valley was doing. It's like if you move to Silicon Valley to work at a high-tech company, you don't want to have to leave if your job doesn't work out. You want to go to another company. And so here they are, all in the same place. So all we need is to superimpose this Hollywood model onto it. And I got a chance to do that for a company called Netscape, which was the first browser company.
Yeah.
And Mark Andreessen started this company. It started a product called Mozilla, which was a dumb name. So we changed it to Netscape Navigator. And the whole thing had to be produced in 6 weeks, like the whole launch. The product wasn't finished. There's no advertising. There was no strategy, nothing. And in 6 weeks, it had to go.
Wow.
Because of the window of time that they had to jump into, so they could be a first mover. So how are we going to do that? Well, we broke it down into separate tasks, and we worked simultaneously, right? So there was an advertising agency, there was us doing the naming and packaging and some other things. There were business consultants, go-to-market people. Everyone had to work together, and they didn't even know each other. Just had to jump in. Just like getting, drafted by a baseball team or something, or suddenly you're working with some people you've never worked with before, you've never played with. So it had to be like that. And it was a beautiful process. It was so fun. And it came out really, really well. The product ended up being superseded in a few years and got sold to AOL. But the experience is what stuck with me, is that, yes, this can be done. You don't have to all work for the same company. The company itself doesn't have to do it internally. You can pull together teams of people from the outside, work with people on the inside, and come up with something great. So that's, to me, that is the highest articulation of collaboration, doing something that's complicated when you don't even know who the people are you're going to be working with.
So on that point,
it's not for the weak of heart, let's just say.
I'd like to interject with a question there on what you just spoke about when you said you had like this 6 weeks to do this, and then I suppose in hindsight, when you looked at it, you saw how incredibly powerful this way of working was. Obviously, there was the speed, but what other benefits did you come across?
You can learn from each other as you're working. Like So in my experience, our team would be working on packaging. This is like retail packaging to hold the software. And also that would create an icon for the product, like some sort of image that could travel on the web and represent the product, like a logo basically for a product. So we're working on that. We came up with the name Navigator, and that was expedience in a way. The two people that were running the company both happened to be sailors. They're rich guys with yachts, and they love sailing their yachts. And I just thought, we're going to use the concept of navigation, and they're going to sign off on this, because they weren't like really good at marketing or design or anything like that. So I made a pitch, showed them like, ta-da, here it is. It's all about navigation. And they went, oh, wow, that's great. And then we started talking about boats and walked away.
Amazing.
So a little bit of magic there, but we had a pretty good idea with Navigator, and that navigation became how you talk about the web, right? You navigate the web. Well, that term came from our studio.
Oh wow.
Okay, so we're working on that, and we met with the advertising agency, and they had some ideas, and then they saw the ship's wheel that we had as an icon. They went, oh God, we could do. Hey, we had some ideas about that, didn't we? And they started working on that theme, and we started getting some ideas from them, and then we shared those with the PR firm, and then everybody would meet almost every day to share at the end of the day what they had, and see if anybody wanted to like jump to another idea. And it was a strong beginning, and we had this deadline, and we did it. Advertising people especially are really good at last minute work, so they have a lot of stuff to pull together in a short amount of time. But they need direction usually, right? They need the strategy, and so that's kind of what we started learning how to provide, was how do we get a strategy that works for the whole team, makes sense to everybody, where everybody has a role to play, and that the strategy connects with ultimately with profits. Like, how is this really going to work, and how do we get agreement? How do we get the green light in Hollywood terms to go ahead with this? So that became our role, and that's when I thought, this is a different role for us, and for me. I mean, I've never done this before, but who else can do it? Nobody's doing it now. So that became, eventually, a few years later, that became my whole business, was just doing that.
So on that,
that was a lot of talking about one idea.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It was kind of the maestro putting that orchestra together, right?
Yeah.
In terms of your role,
I would say.
Yeah, be like if Beethoven, and probably not somebody that good, because if we're comparing to me, but someone who was a composer was also the director, and could do some composing, but mainly just pull everything together.
So on that, Marty, we always like to kind of give some little tips to people listening. If you could summarize or simplify like a quick hack or 3 little tips when you're trying to develop or move into this way of working, like what would they be, I think, from your experience?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to really think about if they get it down to 3.
Well, maybe like the main learning from you.
I always start just like personally with the idea of, what does greatness look like in this case? Is there a need for greatness? Is there a desire for it? And what is it going to take? And what might it look like? Because if you don't shoot high, you're just never going to get there. And so once you figure out, well, it could look like be amazing in some way, then you can start like socializing that with the team and seeing where it takes you, right? Yeah. And then people get excited when it seems like it's going someplace good and where they can have a role, and then it sort of takes on a life of its own, and you can't stop it. If something goes wrong in there, like one part of the team doesn't like your idea, that's going to be a problem. Or if you can't get a total sign off from the executives, that could be a problem. A lot of ways things can go wrong. So. But if you don't have a big idea to begin with that gets a lot of people excited, I just think it just just kind of dissipates and turns out kind of average. And that's average is the enemy to me, because average doesn't get you anything. And it's very expensive to be average. You have to make up for average by spending more money on PR and advertising and all kinds of stuff that basically are attacks on bad branding.
It's interesting you say that, because you're basically describing our journey, like us three, which is interesting to hear you say that. Like, we had an idea, we gambled, we found our ways of working, we used our own superpowers individually that came together to form like one big entity. And the way you described earlier about someone coming together, a group of people coming together who hardly know each other and then dispersing and coming back, like, we always call ourselves the Avengers because of that reason. Like, that's exactly what we do. We have our own businesses 9 to 5, day to day, and when a project comes along, we bring it into the party and we ascend in and we work on it and we disperse. So again, I think it's amazing to hear you to say that, and I think it's amazing that you've taught us how to work this way, and we just capitalized on it and saw an opportunity and just did it. I think it's amazing to see
you guys
it come
are
to life.
exceptional. You definitely are at the top of the class. So I appreciate hanging out with you guys. But I think I hope everybody can learn from the classes at Level C. I think I get a lot of notes from people saying this changed my life. I didn't know there was a business that fit all my skills, and here you are with a kind of a intellectual or theoretical framework for it. It's exactly what I needed and all that. So I know there's people are getting a lot from it.
100%.
But I think I love being in businesses where nobody knows how to do it yet. I just feel better, without. I just don't like learning things that everybody already knows. It just becomes this sort of rote work where you're just doing what everybody's done before, and maybe you do it better a little bit, but who cares? You're not pushing anything forward, right?
Yeah.
So that is becoming really important. Knowing how to swim upstream to where originality lives. Especially with AI. AI is going to take over a lot of jobs. And I wrote about this in MetaSkills. If you want to get a preview of it, it's already 10 years old or something, this book, but it's still ahead of its time because there's nobody's taking up any of the ideas. They just still don't understand what's going to happen to them. But I kind of laid it all out. And the bottom line is, the only way to survive AI is to be really good at human things. That's the last bastion of AI. AI is not going to be good at that. Maybe ever, but it's certainly the last part that AI will touch. So what this is going to do is force people to move upstream to originality and try, and it's always work. You're always doing it because AI and mechanization, automation is always going to be taking it over. So it's always going to be trying to reach down and do more and more things. So you've got to stay ahead of the curve. So I call that the robot curve. And the robot curve is, the principle of it is that at the top of the waterfall is creative work, and that's stuff that's never been done before or rare. It's rare. Let's say it's unusual. It's non-obvious, as they say in the patent world. So creative work is at the top, and as it becomes possible, people automate that a bit, or they templatize it so it becomes skilled work. Skilled work is what professionals do. Like dentists and doctors, they do skilled work. It takes judgment, and it takes hand skills, it takes a lot of things, knowledge, but it's not original, right? You're fitting into a pattern, you're a professional, that's it. If any of that work can be automated, it's going to be turned into rote work where a machine can do it. Okay, so at every stage of this process, people are making money. Right, that's why they're doing it. So they're turning creative work into skilled work because there's money for universities, right, to do that, for example. Skilled work becomes rote work, and then we're talking about software. And then eventually rote work becomes robotic work, and that's where AI loves to be there, right? So it's just repetitious. It just does it faster, better, more perfectly. So you don't want to be down there in the robotic work area. You don't even want to be where rote work is, because what's happening is as work gets turned into, gets automated, it becomes cheaper. You get paid less. The value goes down. You don't want to be there. You want to be at the top, at least in the professional category, if not in the creative originality category, right? So you're always being pushed down the waterfall, and it's just going to happen faster because of AI. And that's what people don't understand, is that, yes, your job is probably going to be automated, or there's going to be some automation in it. So what are you going to bring to it? And to me, that's originality, and that can be in any field. There's some option, some opening for originality. If there isn't, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, I think,
And I guess that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the collaboration, or any kind of collaboration model, which involves different humans with different perspectives, with different experiences, and different views on things, right? Because what you have then is you're also breaking down those biases that everyone has, each other has, the business has, the status quo, currently what's happening in that market, and you're challenging each other. You, at the moment, you can't really do that in the moment with AI, right? That's what's lacking.
Scientists do kind of hang out together, right? Because they're in this world by themselves. And they need inspiration, and they're doing things that have never been done before, and they're thinking things that have never been thought before. And the worst insult you can give somebody at the high end of science is, when they tell you their idea, you say, I don't know, it's what is it? I'll come back to you on that, because it's so good. I want to get it right.
Yeah.
I have to quote somebody.
Cliffhanger.
But let's talk about quoting for a minute. I just want to have something I want to say about that. So you heard me earlier quote Jane Jacobs.
Yeah.
Then I quoted Peter Drucker. And whenever I quote people in my work, for those of you who want to be thought leaders or consultants, or be seen as leaders in your niche, you need ideas, right? You need to impress people with your thoughts, how you're thinking about things. So that's fine, that's good. And we all learn from people who are heroes. But what I've noticed, because of the sort of easy communication, easy linking we have with the internet, is a kind of erosion of intellectual manners. I guess that's what I would call it. It's where people quote you or just take your ideas, and they kind of mash them up and use them as if they thought of that themselves. Okay, you can do that, but to me, it's obvious who those people are, because they seem to come out of nowhere. They're like not connected to any tradition. Like, if you can't tell people where your ideas are coming from, what tradition you're coming from. I come from the Jane Jacobs, Peter Drucker, David Ogilvy tradition, and everybody says, oh, okay, you have ancestors.
Yeah.
When people are getting online and claiming stuff about themselves and spouting stuff that, first of all, they never attribute it. So that's a tell right there that they don't know what they're doing. They're trying to claim that as their own. Oh, I found it. I get credit for finding it. No, you have to go back and find out where all these ideas come from, and give credit to your ancestors. I mean, I learned a lot from Paul Rand, the great designer, Milton Glaser also. David Ogilvy had a lot of smart things to say, and I've been quoting him, but I always credit them because I want people to know that I read, I think, I'm in a tradition, even though I'm doing original stuff when I can. So are they, and that's the tradition I'm in, of being original. So I just think, for those of you who want, online when you're chatting and LinkedIn or whatever, it's great to quote people, but it's even greater to give them attribution because it shows you know what you're talking about, right? You know who's who and what's what. So that's just got off track there, but it's something I've been seeing lately, and I couldn't put it into words, and now I can. And I think this happened with computers because in my studio, I had a bunch of designers, and we were designing a magazine about design. And I'd get new recruits who were very good designers. They had really good aesthetics, could produce things really quickly, and they're beautiful. And when I'd say to them, okay, so on this project, what if we try a kind of a Paul Rand thing, or I don't know, Milton Glaser, or whoever who had a kind of style going, and they would say who? They'd say who? And I'd say, Milton Glaser, maybe the most famous designer of our time. No, don't know him. Then I realized we had a big problem. Like something changed in the industry, because before that, your understanding of design history was so important, right? To getting you in some place just to have depth to your work. And that kind of went missing. And with the computer, because you got a job because you could use a computer, not because you knew the design history. I think that's overlooking a huge source of inspiration and depth in your work.
Are you positive about the future of where branding is going with all of that in?
No, I'm never positive about the future. How could you be? But I can see the general outlines of what's going to happen because it's something I study. And I think there's a big clash that we're facing pretty soon. So we've got two trends that are going to crash into each other. So one is the enormous growth of AI and the acceleration of AI. It's just going to surprise us all. It already has. You can make fun of it and say, "Oh yeah, it makes mistakes and all that." Well, yeah, because it's like a baby technology. Babies make mistakes. It's going to be surprisingly powerful. Okay, so what does that allow you to do? It allows you to grow industries really fast and build companies at a huge, really fast pace. On the other hand, the other trend is the planet is in trouble, and we have a mandate to shape and limit growth. Now, most people I know in business have no concept of what to do when growth isn't the goal. I mean, you see all these people, go to LinkedIn and see how many people have growth in their title or in their profile. I'm a growth hacker. Who's like, okay, what are you going to do when growth is a bad thing? When growth is going to kill us? What does business look like then? So we've got two things that are like on a collision course. Now, branding can help that, I'm sure, because it's all about the connection between everybody. It's like companies and customers need each other, right? So if the company is killing the world that the customer lives in, that's going to be a problem. So here's where branding fits right into the middle of that. And it's going to take some very creative, innovative, and thoughtful people to deal with this conflict, right? And to navigate it. So the smart ones out there who are aware of their ancestry and know a little bit of history and can think creatively in original ways have a good shot at being in the center of this problem. And there's going to be a huge amount of power and money in that area because it's going to get desperate. Let's face it. This is not, AI is not good news right now. It's like, AI would be great if we had everything together, like we had the planet moving, just beautifully understood and everybody's working together. But when you throw something this powerful into a kind of a chaotic world, it just, it works in favor of people who make money off of chaos. So we got some, and I think the other thing is going to be important for people in branding is to prioritize ethics, like be the ethical person in the room. Because otherwise you're going to end up doing some short-term good that's going to do some long-term damage. You make money for people while damaging the future. So how do you talk about that? How do you get everybody on the same page so that you're winning in the short term and you're winning in the long term? Very difficult challenge. And so those who can navigate that, I think, are going to be hugely in demand.
So, Marty, you spend all your life teaching people how to do brand the right way, and most of our careers is about having those basic conversation as well. So there is a lot still that is misunderstood about brand. A lot of people say that brand has a branding problem. Why is it so hard?
I just think it's the history of how branding started. So Peter Drucker back in the 70s, as I said, I think he's the first brand strategist. He just didn't, the word brand didn't mean the same thing then. So that's where the problem is. The word brand was like, a brand was a symbol of ownership, right? I own this, or I did this. And here's
so
my
it was
stamp.
A logo back in the days, basically.
It was a logo. And this goes way back to 10,000 years ago when people were selling pottery and stuff. They put a little mark on it that said, I did this.
Yeah.
And we're all familiar with cows being branded and ouch, by the way. What happened was the world of making identification started to see that there was something bigger involved than the logo itself. It was about the whole identity of the company and how people work together, and basically the connection between customers and the company. How do the customers understand the company? And there was no other discipline interested in that except for those people, for the people who started in identity work, right? So advertising people didn't care about that. They're all short term, like get the campaign out the door, get sales up, very necessary, but not branding, not brand strategy. Brand strategy is more akin to business strategy. In fact, now I would say, at least in my mind, there's no difference between business strategy and brand strategy. They're just parts of the same brain, basically. And so in the future, I definitely see a model of business that has two people running the company, a brand person and an operations person. So that would be very similar to how Apple succeeded with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was the brand person. Everything he cared about comes into the realm of branding. He wasn't sitting around poring over spreadsheets or being in on those investor calls and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't his thing. It was all about, what do we do for customers that drives them out of their mind with jealousy that the other person has something that they don't? How do we, create FOMO? How do we just make the most amazing products in the world? And that's what he cared about. That doesn't mean it's enough to run a business. It's not. So you need somebody else to do that. So that was Tim Cook and whoever it was before Tim Cook doing that work. And I see that as actually a good model for a fast-moving company that depends on innovation to succeed. They're going to need two people, and one of those should be the CBO, Chief Brand Officer. So that's why Level C. That's why we call our brand mastery program Level C. We want to get some of those people into that position. Right.
Business and emotion, basically. That's how you're going to make it.
Magic and logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, money and emotion. Yeah, sure.
This we're close to the hour now. So good listening to you, Martin. It's always a pleasure having these conversations with you. Wes, have we got any questions in the chat?
I don't think there's any questions in the chat just yet, but I know we like to kind of unearth new news. I think Marty's got something to tell us about Scramble, which is great. If no one's read it, I do refer it to a lot of people. I think even people in the chat have said, it took somebody out of a Cuban bar and she made excuses to go home and read it, which is great. Marty, tell us about your little news on Scramble.
I think Scramble is still, if you go to Amazon, you can get the ebook for free if you have Prime, just for I don't know, for this month maybe, but check it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Scramble, the idea behind Scramble is to express brand principles in a way that connects with reality, right? So theory and practice can come together in a story. And so this is a fictional, a thriller, a business thriller about brand strategy. And I found that it can scratch some itches that normal business books can't. Normal business books are like lists and things to do and templates and all that kind of stuff, a few principles thrown in. But it doesn't tell you what happens when the theory hits the practice. So in the real world, CEOs are like, I mean, they'll read my books and they'll say, this is great, but I don't know how to put this into practice. I don't know what it would feel like to use these principles in my business. And so I wrote Scramble for that. And it's about a young CEO who gets sort of thrown into the job and he's in trouble in his first year. And he has to totally reconfigure the business to succeed, to survive, or else he's out of a job. And he's got 6 weeks. So like my experience at Netscape. So 6 weeks to save the company. And he does it with agile strategy, which he has to discover along the way as a collaborative project. They all learn it together. And at the end, getting through some very tight spots. Well, I won't tell you what happens. But maybe they fail. Maybe they totally fail.
A little insight on that, Marty. One of the first ever strategies I delivered on my own, I was reciting, like, I can know the point of the obituary in there, and I was reliving your moment word for word in the car on the way to this meeting, and I was playing the instructions back in my head. Honestly, I'll never forget it. It was crazy.
Oh wow! Anyway. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So I'm with Scramble, a different kind of book for me. I mean, it's the only brand business book written as a thriller, so it's unique. Amazing. But it did something the other books and other people's books can't do. So I'm really interested in that, and I'm interested in taking that idea of thrillers as learning vehicles and taking it into sort of more of a mass audience, teaching people about the principles of design thinking and the principles of, I don't know, like biodesign and things that we're going to need to know more about in the future. So I've got a series started on that, and none of these have come out yet. I had a publisher, and after 3 years, they still haven't figured out how to put it all together because they had big plans for it. So I pulled it, and now I'm looking for another publisher. So the whole thing starts again. But in the meantime, I've got the second book drafted, and I'm halfway through the third. And I'm very excited about this way of combining entertainment and learning.
Amazing.
Well, I've always enjoyed your books before Scrambled because you're well known for this, having complex ideas and simplifying them in a few pages. I think you mentioned you can read them on a short flight somewhere, right? But then when Scramble came, it was a different kind of writing, and that's obviously hats off to you for writing something like that. And it is gripping, it is compelling, and who would have thought it? You know, like you think business thriller, really, and then you get your hands on that and you can't put it down. So I loved it. And I do recommend people also getting the audio because it's narrated by Marty as well.
Oh, I'm a terrible narrator, but people have told me that they think it's kind of cool, like a late night DJ kind of voice.
Yeah. So Raka's in the chat, and I put Raka onto this, and he's a good friend of mine, Marty. And he's a budding strategist, and I put him onto it, and he wouldn't put it down either. So there's a thing about this which is a bit addictive. Let's move into this bit about which Ash hates. I always like to ask our guests to ask us a question. I don't know if you've got one for us, but fire away if there's something that you want to ask us.
Yeah, sure. I have an idea.
Come on, then.
Some things to ask. Where does this podcast series fit in what you three are doing together? Because I'm interested because you guys met at Level C.
Yeah. So
I know you've been meeting in interesting locations around Europe. Or God knows what. I think beer is probably what you're doing.
Beer
and sun.
There might be more.
Beer was the start of the story, and we're going to do a live one day where we're going to tell the actual story of how it all happened. But the strategy of this came in early in the year, we got together and we actually strategized ourselves. So we did our year strategy, okay, and we created a single line strategy for us three. And it was basically just to get in front of people, right? That was our single line strategy. Boiled down was, let's just get in front of people. And whether that be talking, whether that be teaching, whether that be podcasts, whether that be lives, whatever we can manufacture and fabricate ourselves, we need to grow our awareness as a three. So we just strategized, sat down, thought about how we can make this happen, basically for free. Ash had the greatest idea. I'll give him the credit to this. Like, let's start doing lives. And it started. And then going back to your point about the network and the people that you meet, I think that's one of the greatest things that's happened to me in collaboration through the years. It started in New York, just collaborating with people. You have a network, and then you lean into that network when you need it. And we just started doing it, and hence why you're here through us and other people we've met. It's just so it fitted into our strategy because we just needed to get in front of people. So we utilized the tech, the tools, and the know-how to do it. And this is why you're in front of us.
But from the customer perspective, what we always say that they get 3x the value. You remember in one of your books, Marty, you were saying that 1 + 1 = 11. We do 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 33.
Yeah.
So they get 3 strategies, 3 agencies, same problem.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, that's super interesting, and it's organic. It comes right out of what you guys want to do and how you want to collaborate. So I'm thrilled. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I just wanted to do everything myself, just for control, and that was really hard to give that up.
Yeah.
And so I was careful about giving it up. I did it slowly in a way that I didn't lose control, and the product came out good. And that took a long time to figure out. And it's about being a creative leader, and it's definitely a thing. You have to learn how to do it. It's not something you would just do naturally. You might have an inclination towards it, but you have to be like a natural team leader and know enough about all the other players and what they're doing to have credibility within that team. And so I had to learn that. I had to learn how to do it consciously.
Yeah.
But it's well, here's a question. Will there be a new Scramble Booker series?
That's Raka.
Okay, pure edutainment. I like that, pure edutainment. That's accurate, I hope. I planned 2 other books for this series, but I'm waiting for this first one to get enough traction so that if I come out with a second one and people haven't read the first, they're already behind. So I have to wait until there's an audience builds up for Scramble, and it's starting to take off on its own, which takes a long time in business books, especially weird ones like Scramble. But when it does, I've got 2 other ones that are mapped out, and I would love to write them. So in the meantime, I've got this mass audience series going with 3 books in that, and I'll just work on that because I know I can get that out there and get it published and so forth, and it'll do okay, at least okay. It might do better than that. You just never know with books. It's a total crapshoot, especially with novels. It has something to do with quality of the work, but only partially. A lot of it's luck. A lot of it's what's happening in the zeitgeist at the time. What other books are out there? Which books have been, which styles have been done to death? All this stuff you can't predict when you're starting a project that takes 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's hard. I would imagine it's hard. I've not released one book yet, but I can imagine the.
I mean, you did.
I did, but I wasn't that happy with, so I didn't really soft launch it, but I didn't hard. I'll revisit it though.
Yeah. Do it.
Thanks so much, Marty. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's been fun. It's great to see you guys.
Appreciate you, man. Honestly, thank you so much.
Thanks, Marty. Have a great weekend.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Enjoy the sun. Peace, bro.
Nice.
Ooh, man. Look
I could go hours listening.
I might
to
take
Marty.
my hat off for that.
Yeah.
Hello. There's a ton of questions that we missed, but maybe you'll get back.
I guess the best way to do, like, if you have still got more questions, follow Marty on LinkedIn, follow Level C, have a look what's happening in that space, ask the questions, get in conversations with other strategists at Level C, and Andy and Marty themselves. They're
also
quite a bit.
But also network between each other, right? We just discussed about the power of collaboration, the power of networking.
Yeah.
There are some amazing people in the chat that I saw, people we worked with, we studied together, we talked together, they're part of our network. Great fucking people. So do network together, go interact, and bring to life what we just discussed, right? The power of networking, power of collaboration.
Man, use it, definitely.
Right, guys.
I guess we're wrapping it up.
Yeah.
It's beer time.
I need to refill my glass. Like I'm done, yo.
Friday,
Anyway,
thank you everyone for
Friday.
having patience for us. Happy Friday.
See you in 2 weeks.